All right, all right, all right. Here we go. We all back in KJ Studios. You know, I was sitting there wondering, like, man, I wonder if I need to come up with a new, all right, all right, all right. It's like I got my own little Matthew McConaughey thing going on. But anyways, this morning, man, we got a special guest coming, Christine Johnson. And before we get started, because I know that, yeah, it's just a cold morning. But before we get started, I got to tell you, this leader is phenomenal. I met her in the Air Force, and just man, a lead by example type leader. Honestly, almost like literally second to none. One of those that is all hua and all dua. And man, I'm just so excited to be able to have an opportunity to interview her today. So I'm gonna hit her up a little bit early, man. So yeah, let's see what's going on. Let's see if we get an answer.
Hello?
Hello,
Hello?
is this Christine Johnson?
Yes, it is.
What's going on? It's Kevin James.
Hey,
You doing all right?
yes, sir.
Okay, man. Do you get done boxing and hitting that bag or what?
Never done.
Oh wow. Anyways, we are already on a hot mic and recording, so hopefully we caught you like waking up from bed or something like that. I don't know. But you ready to do this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. I thought we were doing a Zoom, Google Meet or something.
Oh no. You know why I don't do those things? Because they feel too meeting, you know?
I understand.
You know what I mean? I don't know. It's kind of like, when I go lift weights, everybody knows I'm an avid weightlifter, and it's not because I have a smoking hot body. It's just because I'm like Shrek. But they're always surprised when I don't have a weight room in my gym. And I'm an environmental guy. So like I have to be in that environment significantly impacts me. So, I don't know, like when I get on the Zoom, it feels weird because, you already have to listen to your own voice. Then you're looking at yourself and then you're like, oh, I need to cut those hairs out of my nose or
You know what? I think that is actually true. You tend to be looking at yourself more than you look at the other person because you're like, oh, man, why is this stray hair sticking up here?
yeah. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I'm just a weird dude, I think. But like, yeah, I pick up on little things that draw my attention away from focusing on what I should be focused on, which right now it is you. So this is the first time I did something different. I actually started the interview before I called you because it's really weird. In the past, I would just call you and then we would kind of talk and get the ice broken, and then you would find out 15 minutes of good content was missed. Because
that makes sense.
they just start talking and it's like, all right, bro, put a pause on it and get ready to say it again. But after the first, you lose the originality after the first one, after the first round.
Yes.
So
it's organic.
yeah. So let me kind of give you a rehash of what I said. Christine Johnson, met her in the Air Force audience. So she's online now. And I'm going to tell you one of the most phenomenal leaders. What I didn't say is my first memory of you. And it was in the club, if you remember, when you probably don't remember this. I do. But do you remember when the club, before it was renovated, had that old raggedy-ass room where the top three would meet?
Yes.
Okay. And the command chief at the time had gotten in the chief's asses saying the top three says the chiefs just don't come to the top three. So all of a sudden, I think one day out of nowhere, here's all the chiefs showing up telling the top three how they need to be. And I don't know if you remember that. I remember you sitting there and you were in charge of, I think, an awards program. There was something you were in charge of, but I remember the nonverbal you had, and you have a very powerful nonverbal that is either glowing when you're happy or shut the fuck up look. And it wasn't one of those happy glowing looks. And so I remember that from this day, and I'm like, oh man, she's not pleased that we're here. Basically, like, you don't just show up. Doesn't make sense. You don't just show up and all of a sudden tell people their shit stinks and then you disappear again. But you're not one of those leaders. You've always been present. You've always been around. You've always done everything. So if, without further ado, using call sign or not, it's up to you. Do we have to put a disclaimer out there about Air Force affiliation?
No, I don't think I'm gonna say anything that's inappropriate.
All right, I do all the time, but I can't. So, but yeah, if you wouldn't mind, introduce yourself to the audience and let's get this ball rolling.
Hi, hello, everybody. Like you said, my name is Christine Johnson. I am currently in the Air Force, active duty for 18 years now. E7 Master Sergeant. Currently at Shaw Air Force Base. Living my life like, you know what I'm saying?
Shawshank, huh?
Shawshank.
Shaw. That's one of them bases, boy. That's one of them bases. Let me accidentally throw a disclaimer out there that anything we say or do has nothing to do with the Air Force or reflection of the Air Force, but is absolutely just about what me and Christine are talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just throw that out there because I already threw Shawshank in. That probably took you down a rabbit hole in your mind, like, oh yeah. Anyways, 18 years of service. Wow. And let me throw this plug out there to just get you a little fired up. You're an E7, but you absolutely operate like a chief. And I'm just being real. Like, and so big kudos to you because I used to tell people don't look at the stripes because even people with the stripes don't act like it. And I think you know this, huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
You want to speak on that? No. See, look, I told you. That's why you put those disclaimers out there.
It's not only the stripes, it's the what they have on their collars too. You know, sometimes people are overpaid airmen.
Oh yeah.
It's weird because sometimes you're looking at them and you're like, wow, you're doing absolutely nothing. But thank you for being here and being present.
Yeah.
And let's continue.
Is that one of those things where you look at them and you're like, bless your heart. Kind of like when all the chiefs showed up to that top 3 meeting.
You know, nonverbals, you are not the first person to tell me that my nonverbals are pretty strong. I've been working on that, you know, because they get me in trouble sometimes. And I don't, and the mask doesn't hide it. You would think the mask hides it, but it really doesn't because I've had people be like, your eyebrows. I was like, oh, I tried. Oh, you can see that?
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you this from a guy's perspective, you know, and you know, and guys are kind of raised to, you know, kind of like, you know, be flirtatious and stuff like that. The eyes tell everything. So yeah. So even mask or no mask, the eyes probably to me send off the strongest nonverbal. And you know, in communication, nonverbals is the biggest part of communication, more than what you say in your tone.
Exactly. It's so true.
You know,
and I didn't realize in that top 3 meeting that I was sending off all them vibes.
You were, but you were probably not just frustrated at the Chiefs saying it. It could be any way. I look at it this. We could have been saying some truth that the leaders all right, so I'm going to tell you that I'm not a big top 3 supporter. And I'm going to tell you why. And ask anybody who knows me. So when I was stationed at Langley, I was the vice president of Langley African American Heritage.
Oh, nice.
And of course, you know, I'm an Asian dude. And, you know, the first thing he said is like, what are you doing here? Right. Of course, I was very welcome. So don't get me wrong, but there was always inside jokes. Is that fair to say? Inside jokes. And I said, well, you know, you guys do things that matter to me. Because they were going out to the community and they were mentoring kids in schools. And I'm talking about schools where like I wanted to bring my GAT to get to.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I feel like the top 3 there was a majority of people who just wanted FaceTime with the right people to progress their career.
Mm-hmm. So,
And I just wasn't down with that, because I think if you know me, like I know you, I think real can sense real. And I'm like, look, like, I'm going to tell you how I feel. It doesn't mean I hate you, you know, like I'm sure I know you have to, because you're friends with Neff, and she's just as lethal as you are with the nonverbals and the things she says. And Neff will have to tell you the story. One day we were in my office and she was just grilling me like for real, right? And I said, do I ever get a chance to speak? And she you know her, she's like, huh?
No break.
No. I don't want it. I never wanted that. I don't think you do. I mean, do you want someone who's just going to say some shit, or do you want someone who's going to stand their ground, their thoughts, and then at least you know where each other stands, you know?
That's true.
And so anyways, it's not about me. It's absolutely about you. But remember I told you we can go 15 minutes and miss so much good content. And I'm glad you literally the first person that I've done an interview like this for. And I think I'm going to stay the course because I like it. Because I can always edit out the calling you like it's a damn Jerky Boys prank call video. You know, but
when I number, I'm like, hello.
I know. Well, you know, so my wife got mad at me because, you know, I still have a 707 number, which is Bay Area, like where Travis Air Force Base is. And most of the spam I get is from the Bay Area, California. So what I've gotten accustomed to is I'll answer it knowing it's spam, and I'm hoping that they're going to try to convince me to buy something or do something, and I actually play the role of whoever, right? And so lately I've been listening to, so it's funny because you were talking about your workout. Lately I've had to go back to about the mid to early 90s hip hop gangster rap to kind of feel energized in the gym. Like, I don't know, music is very influential in our workout. So I've been listening to MC8, Menace to Society, and, you know, he was a big MC8 in the motherfucking house, you know? And so me and my kids are walking around, you know, all day in the house, and of course it makes Lynn upset. So this guy calls and he's like, Mr. Yee, as soon as I pick up the phone, high energy, right? That's sales 101, high energy. Mr. Yee. And I was like, Mr. Yee? I was like, okay, I can be Mr. Yee, but I'm going to be MC8 Mr. Yee. And
this is great.
And so he's like, boy, do I got a deal for you. I'm going to get you to 8.8%. And I was like, 8.8% on what? You know, and my wife's looking at me like she's torn between laughing and just staring at me. And my dad is just listening to me on speakerphone, like, and you can tell in his voice that he's kind of like, oh, is this a Mr. Yee or who? And I was like, well, my fucked up childhood, that's why I am the way I am. And I'm trying to remember the verses. And finally my wife's like, will you hang up the phone? And so so one of the things that stood out that I definitely absolutely we got to talk about first is that Valentine of yours while you were boxing.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about that post? Because I was like, yep, that's her, you know, and clearly Christine likes some thug in her Valentine.
Okay, so I'm here for the turn up all the way. I love like rap, hip hop music. I like music with a good beat, and just like you said, music influences your workout. And so I can't work out to no country music, pop music where they're like talking about love and all that. No, give me some gangster shit, turn it all the way up so I can hit something. Like, invigorate me to want to fight. And so my one of the instructors, and he's a young kid. I don't want to call him a kid. He's a young man, and we've had conversations a couple of times about me. I'm like, he does not like city girls or some of that ratchet, what we call ratchet music. He doesn't like that kind of stuff. But for some strange reason, he wanted to cater to me today, and I was like, I'm all here for it. He's like,
Okay.
I got. he was a he reversed psychology, the Destiny's Child, and wanted to cater to me, and I was like, yes, baby, I'm here for it all day. And he's just like, and it was just real. I was wrapping up my hands, getting ready for the class to start, and he just walked up behind me and was like, hey, Christine, I got you. And I was just like, what? I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about?
Like, what you
Because
got?
what you got? Music was already playing, and if you got me something, please give it to me. I'm here for it. And so he went, and then the music changed, and oh my gosh, it was like it started off with Meg Thee Stallion, and I was like, oh, you on your hot girl shit today, hunty.
I'm trying to envision your nonverbal when you look at him as soon as you hear Meg Thee Stallion.
Look, it was like, if you can imagine, I'm looking down, just kind of like wrapping my hands, and then all of a sudden, hot girl shit, and then my head popped up, and I looked over at him, and he looked at me, and I was like, boy, don't play with me.
So what song was that from Meg Thee Stallion?
Oh gosh, I love them all, but I don't remember. As soon as I hear hot girl shit, that's how she starts off every song.
Okay.
Hot girl shit, yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to like look up. I'm trying to look up lyrics. You know what I mean?
The ones with the tall, where she said, "Tall girl." Now he likes tall girl, and I'm like, let me tell you, I'm not tall, but I can be tall. Let me get some heels on and walk around this place. You just don't know.
Oh yeah, with the boxing gloves. Because let me tell you something. I started looking at these lyrics, and I don't even think I'm rated to read these out. All right, I just got to the I want you to park that Big Mac truck. I'm like,
oh, that's a WAP. That's WAP.
Oh yeah. So that's a little hybrid, right?
Yes, that's a hybrid with Cardi B.
Cardi B. Okay.
And to that one, and I was like, boy, I can do some things with this song. You don't want to. You better turn this off.
So did it work though? I mean, you posted about your ideal Valentine, and he hit the mark, right?
Man,
like, I mean,
it was great. That was an amazing workout. And because I like the music, and if I'm into the music, I hit harder. And so I was beating the heck out of that bag. He was walking around. He's like, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I like. And I was like, you keep this music up, you're going to get more than what you like.
Don't be threatening me with a good time.
What? You young, but I'm going to show you some old moves. You not ready?
So was that just in the moment thing, or did this actually turn into something else, or it just was just one of those moments where it was like, okay, got me through a great workout, but all right, time for me to move on until I hit the bag again. Oh, see, now I'm prying, ain't I? Like,
no, like we're friends, we're cool, and I think he's just like, over conversations we've had like before and after class, he know that I like that kind of music, and it was, what was that? Wasn't that a Friday? I think that was like a Friday, and it was just like he was ending off the week on a high. He saw me walk in, and he was like, "That's you, Christine."
Oh man.
But then at the end, so it's funny because at the end of the class, I was like, "This was an amazing workout. Thank you so much for the music." And he was really looking at me crazy because I posted on there. I was like, during the class, he was like, "Christine, this is a boxing class. This is not a twerking class."
Like, what are you talking about? You better put some.
Look.
You better put some Silk and Shy on there next time.
Oh, please no.
You know, now I'm dating myself. I was leaving the gym this morning, and the girl was like, "Hey, do you like the outfit?" Because my daughter's with me, and I was like, "Yeah, sure." You know what I mean? What am I going to say? No. And she's like, "It's 90s day," and I was like, and this is like a young girl works at the gym who maybe at best is like 18, 19, right? I said, 90s? I was like, what do you know about the 90s? I said, I graduated in 92, right? And she looked at me, and I was like, yeah, I know. I'm old, but I'm like, I'm amazed that I'm like, okay, are we circling back? Because you remember, I don't know, I graduated in 92, and that was the year that like Cross Colors was big. You had like Kwame out there, MC Brains, the Humpty Dance, and
Oh God.
Hammer was, just before he went broke and became gangster. Um, that's my time. You know what I mean? Milli Vanilli. Um, so anyways, I don't know. I wanted to hear that story because it caught my eye, and I know your personality, and I literally, when I read it, I felt it, because I know what a good song with good workout with a good vibe can create such endorphins that, if it prompts you to post it.
Yes, I had so much fun. And at the end of the class, I was like, so what you get me for Valentine's Day? He looked at me real crazy. He was like, what? I was like, you heard me? I was like, you in it now.
Wow. So is that your when you box, like what got you into boxing?
Well, I started when I was in Vegas doing like a cardio kickboxing class, and I really like hitting things, hitting things, hitting mitts. It like releases a lot of stress, and so at least for me it does. And so I like that, and I like sometimes I'm just here for the violence, and I just like that. And so doing the kickboxing and or the kickboxing cardio type stuff workout, it kind of made me want to do it more on a higher level, to where it wasn't just like hopping around and doing all that stuff. Because I was like, this is not winning fights. Like this is not how you beat somebody up. Like you can't defend yourself with this. And
Yeah.
so when I here to Shaw, I look for more of a actual boxing gym where I can go to and learn technique, refine techniques, and then like really, really get into the craft.
Got
And
it.
so, because what's really funny is that when I was an airman, I don't know if you've ever been to Wright Pat, but that was my first duty station.
Okay.
Wright Patterson, the gym in Area B is phenomenal because they basically renovated an old hangar and made it the gym. So it was huge. And upstairs in that gym, they had a boxing ring. And as an airman, I was up there doing like boxing classes because they would have like boxing classes. And I was like, oh, and I liked it, but then I PCS, I was only there for a short time. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, and I thought that's how all gyms in the Air Force was going to look like. Definitely not.
Oh no, because if anyone's ever been to Gunter Annex, that old raggedy piece of shit, like I'm getting hit in the face with basketballs trying to do some cardio, you know. And no, yeah, you've been to Gunter Annex, right? And even Maxwell wasn't much better. It's a lot better now, but those are those bases where you're like, ooh, I'm glad I'm not into fitness, because I ain't coming to this whole raggedy shit. And yeah, and God blessed me. Most of my TDYs, believe it or not, were at Lackland or Montgomery. And while I'm not a South dude, and I don't like those bases, I really enjoyed the Montgomery area, and there's so much history, for me from my perspective, that is kind of, where the civil rights launched. You got Selma, you have Martin Luther King. I loved that area, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I love sweet tea. That's like syrup. Um, yeah, and I lived in California forever. Even here, I'm like, hey, you got sweet tea? And they're like, oh yeah, and they bring me a tea, and they're like, oh, the sugar's right there. I'm like, that's not fucking sweet tea. And they look at me crazy. I'm like, the sugar's gonna just sink to the bottom, asshole. I'm like, so I'm basically drinking like regular old
Wow.
tea and then just a spoonful of sugar at the bottom. So I don't know, but I do think that one thing we definitely got to touch on is, because I think the audience definitely can tell that you are you're a really awesome person. I really wish I had more time to hang out with you. I know we communicated on a few times. I think I'm pretty sure I made sure you got my coin before you left.
Legit the best coin. That is, I took pictures and sent this to my friends. I was like, bruh, have you ever seen a coin like this? Like, this is amazing. I was like, see, this is the type of stuff that we need. I was like, you need people that take pride in what they are giving out. I was like, don't give me this random, oh, because this is just in the budget, I'm gonna give you this coin that's just a circle and it has like chief stripes on it, and here you go. I'm like, this shows nothing about your personality.
Right.
Like, who are you?
And let me add another element to that. Only certain chiefs in certain positions, and I think there's a workaround. Well, no, because it changed. Like the chiefs at my level, the low life chiefs in the squadrons, we pay for those out of pocket. So when I say add another level, you're like, okay, if someone can take pride in themselves and don't care about the money and the recognizing of other people, that says a lot. I'm basically stroking myself, but,
No, but you pay out of your pocket for that, and there's people in certain positions that actually get money to make their coins. And I'm like, why does your coin not look like anything?
Yeah. Well, someone told me one day, they were like, that's a big coin, Chief. Are you compensating? I was like, no, you're just a little chief.
You're just a little chief.
I said, you're just little. I was like, so like if you put my truck next to an 18-wheeler, it looks little. I was like, you're just little. I was like, it's okay. There's like little coins for guys like you. And I actually had someone tell me that it was offensive because they were like, this is, we shied away from using the Native American symbol for your coin.
Oh gosh.
And I said, well, I'm like 0.00000.1% slap a hoe, and you about to get slapped. So
it's real funny. Like, really? I was like, I've heard that before, but I've heard that only with certain chiefs want to shy away from the whole, like, actually using like the headdress and stuff like that, or getting that as a gift because they feel like it's offensive. And I was like, but when are we going to, like, sometimes some traditions are rooted in stuff that you have to keep. It empowers, it invigorates, it makes people feel like a sense of belonging.
Right.
So you got to do some traditions. I don't offensive. I
think so man, to see this, I knew I wanted to do that disclaimer out there because I knew gradually we would lead to some tough conversations. I think being offensive is the new, okay, so let me stop real quick. Leadership, right? So let's talk leadership because I know you're a phenomenal leader. And I said it before when we started, you don't just lead by your mouth. I see you in action leading. I see you doing stuff. That says a lot. And I got in a big argument with other chiefs. I'm going to put this out there, and if you've listened to my podcast before, I'll tell you, chiefs are the best people to get shit done, and they're the best people to fuck things up. And if you put us all in the room and we all think we know it, it boils down to sometimes where it's just like, well, let's just go outside and see who wins. And I know I'm going to.
Yes.
So, I mean, sometimes you got to take it to the streets, but all right. So, you got like Maxwell. So what I guess I'm trying to say is leadership became all of a sudden a sales pitch and people monetized it. Mm-hmm. Right. So like I told someone before, I was like, oh, I love Simon Sinek. You like Simon Sinek?
Yeah.
I've never seen him lead shit, but I'll listen to his ass all day long. Mm-hmm. Right. Maxwell. I've never seen him lead shit, but I'll listen to him. Zig Ziglar, I'll listen to him. I ain't never seen him lead nothing. And so it became something like, I mean, shit, what do you think I'm doing now? The only thing I tell people is but I've gotten my degree from School of Hard Knocks in leading. I said almost 30 years in the Air Force, and I want to go back to something because I think now with social media and technology, and one thing I commend you on, you don't really go on social media as much as I do. I live on it. I don't know why, maybe I have a self-esteem issue. But I feel like now, remember you were saying we were moving away from traditions and heritage and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. I'm like, because being offended is the new thing to sell, like leadership was. Does you see the tie-in I'm trying to make now?
Yeah.
And I think there's some things we should absolutely be offended by. And I absolutely believe there's some things in our history we have to move forward and fix. But I also believe there's some people out there who use a sales pitch like, this stuff's got to stop, but there would be nothing without it. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
I'm like, everything you talk about is being offended. So because we threw that disclaimer out there and you talked about why we're moving away from stuff, right? I'm going to tell you, I go to the Airman NCO, Senior NCO page now. I'm going to tell you, it's so much easier now as a retiree. I can't. I had to stop following it. Because it wasn't. How do you solve a problem on social media? Remember you. So you're in my leaders group, and oh, by the way, thank you for asking if I was okay. I had a really really bad day. I'll tell you about it if we weren't recording. But it wasn't like my PTSD bad day. There's just some things like, the version of you where you say you don't look happy. That's just how that was my mindset about everything. All right, back we're talking about moving away from heritage. What's the biggest things that you're seeing that good, bad, or indifferent? I mean, because I don't want to put you in a position. I'm gonna tell you, I'll speak badly about it if you speak goodly about it. But like, there's a big paradigm shift right now in the institution, right? I mean, whether it's used to social media. I mean, just yesterday, right? I had this kid. He's on the rotator, and he took a picture, and he's trying to, and I boiled it down to like, dude, did your mom not love you enough? And he takes a picture. I don't get it. We had to social distance while we were deployed, but they'll cram us all in this plane together.
Well, I've seen that post.
Did you see it? Did you see what I said?
Oh no, I didn't see what you said.
Yeah, I said, enjoy the ride and shut the fuck up. Everybody doesn't get to go home.
That is the perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective.
He's not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. It's all and a lot of people say that and you hear it, but until you actually like internalize what it means to actually have perspective and look at a situation from another point of view, you don't actually what's the word? Not embrace, but you don't get to really like respect like the position that you're in right now. And sometimes it's a position of I'm getting to go home, or maybe sometimes on those rotators, sometimes on those planes, like they have the caskets in there as well. And it's like, that would be a humbling experience for you to actually look at the perspective of you sitting versus you laying in a casket. Like, just be grateful that you're going home.
Yeah. And, I ran more joy fairs in combat. That's why I was kind of like, are you serious, dude?
It's sometimes it definitely is a perspective. It's definitely like putting on, like looking at something from another person's point of view, or a point of view that you haven't looked at. And that's a lot of reasons why there's sometimes a lot of conflict, a lot of battles in different offices, because people don't take the moment to sit back and say, let me actually listen to where you're coming from, because maybe we're saying the same thing. There might be some slight differences, but we can compromise on something and get this done.
Right.
And I think that's where sometimes we're missing the ball, or people in leadership positions are not actually being leaders, but more so dictators.
Oh yeah, absolutely. and again, that is perspective based. I'm gonna tell you the one policy change that absolutely made me furious. It was a good policy change, but I was furious. So obviously I'm hating, right? The getting rid of the AC measurement in the fitness test. I spent years starving myself before a PT test, and I was in great shape, but because I'm a big guy, my waist could fluctuate between 41 to 36, depending on, the season. And I had always argued my whole career about, I'm running fine. I max push-ups and max sit-ups, but because I may have a 40-inch waist, I'm not in shape no more. And I was like, that's not even anything to do with being physically fit. I mean, it has to do with my health. And so,
I think that we were worried sometimes, like when we go back and we look at our physical fitness assessment and how they get the numbers that they get and why we do the things that we do.
Right.
I think it's made for everybody. And like in your case, like sometimes like I would see some and be like, no, that guy's like, I was like, you want to talk about, I was like, they say that they do these certain assessments to make sure that if we're in combat, can you drag your wingman or carry your wingman like 100 yards? And I was like, yes, I can. I definitely can. And this man over here definitely can.
And
Like
I'm a good shield.
there's nothing in my mind that will have me second guess that you would not be able to throw me over your shoulder and run for as long as you needed to in combat.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I was scrutinized all the time when I was on the IG team. Me and my chief didn't like each other. I got there as a match sergeant, and he was just a fucking hater. And it's okay, no one else liked him either. And so I remember I got there, and I was probably one of the. I was at one time. This before you knew me. I was a pretty solid 300 pounds powerlifting, and I got to the IG team, and one of the lieutenant colonels there, he was like, "Man, bro, how much you bench press, right?" And I was just new to the team, not even a week, and that chief was there. And so before I could answer, this is no lie, the chief takes his hand and does kind of a circle motion about 2 inches from my midsection, right? And this is how he really talked. He was like, well, we're going to get him on a cardio program. No lie.
Who are you talking to?
Bruh, see, look, now you about to get me going. So I looked at him. I said, I bet you I outrun you. And like, it was bad because it was, basically like, I was always pushing the red line to be insubordinate with him. And my personality is like yours. And I'm like, you literally disrespected me. Like, because I passed my PT test, but now you want to talk about a cardio program. Right. And so he was one of those chiefs who, he hit out in all these special jobs. Right. So he's like that 30-year chief with the same amount of ribbons as a basic trainee graduate. And, and so, one day he was in a service dress and I popped in with mine. I think I was actually promoting to senior. I don't know how I made senior, but I did. So I walk in and I kind of was like General Patton next to him with my rack. And I walked up to him. I was like, hey, chief, you looking good. I said, we've been at war for over 20 years, right? I said, I don't see no campaign medals from the desert. And he looked at me. I said, I don't even see a Korea on there. I was like, damn, not even a remote. And he looked at me because think about it. Remember, I said I would push the red line for being insubordinate, right? And that's not quite insubordinate, but it's an insult. Fair enough.
Yes.
And he looked at me and I said, well, it's all good though. I said, thanks for getting me on that cardio program, so if I'm ready to go to war again, I'll do all right. And yeah, and so anyways, he just walked off and he left anyways. So, and then I'm sure if he saw that I'd made chief, he would be, I could speak very, 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 very candidly with him. But, yeah, the culture change and moving away from the heritages.
That was a great story.
Yeah, I know, and I've talked a lot. So there's a couple questions I need to make sure I ask you. Okay. Believe it or not, these things go fast. We're already at 40 minutes.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, like that. That's why, like, my wife would be like, my wife is my biggest critic, and I love her, and I just can't take it sometimes. But I said you should do a show interviewing me about questions I don't answer and why I talk so much. But I can't foot stomp this for you and for the audience. Phenomenal leader here. Phenomenal leader. How did you become you? And oh, by the way, like, you have a call sign. And that's what I'm curious about too, is how did you get the call sign and how did you become you as the leader you are today?
So, there are a lot of people that help to shape me into what I feel like I think I'm a pretty decent leader. I can definitely be better. And there are a couple people throughout my time in the military that have helped shape me. And so starting off as an airman, like I came into the military. I'm from Miami, Florida. And yeah, I hope that says a lot to just kind of like captures like coming into the military with a little bit of an attitude, with a little bit of a you don't tell me what to do, which is kind of weird, right? Because you join the
Yeah.
military. You were supposed to tell you.
No, I don't think it's weird, but it's to come in the military with an attitude, knowing you're volunteering to go into somewhere that requires structure and being told what to do. Yes.
Yes, and so I'm, I'm the first person in my family to ever be in the military, the only person in my family in the military, and so me joining the Air Force was like everybody looked at me and kind of was like, what you doing what? Okay, like we don't do that type of thing. And so I joined the military. I've always had like a little bit of an attitude, I guess you could say, chip on my shoulder type of thing. And so, as an airman, when I got to it was really my second duty station because my first duty station at NASIC or at Wright Pat, nobody really bothered me. I was like the only black person in my shop.
Okay.
Surrounded by officers and all civilians, and I was just like, and nobody really said anything to me. So I was like, okay. So I was only there for a year, but when I got to my second duty station, Korea,
Wolfpack or 50 Worst?
Oh, I was at back in the day the 607 Ace, the Ace construct, not the AOC.
Oh, so you weren't at Osan or Kunsan?
I was at Osan.
Osan. Oh, so I'm sorry. All right. I call Osan the 50 Worst because they're the 51st, but I call it the 50 Worst.
Oh, yes, I was at Osan, but
Okay.
not under the. And so there, I actually saw more black people, more people that actually looked like me.
Okay.
Able to communicate better with those individuals because we came from a place of understanding.
Okay.
And it took my supervisor, who was a staff sergeant. I was an A1C, and he pulled me aside and he spoke very candidly to me, and basically told me to unfuck myself, and that I'm not in Miami anymore. That we are all the way in the military, and you can't be hood or a gangster or walking around here. Showing your ass to everybody because it makes us all look bad.
Shit. You need to see some pictures of me when I was an airman. Because first of all, I was the mixed Asian guy who thought he was black. And I'm wearing bandana. Anyways, let me not go down that path. This is about you. Okay, so unfucked yourself, candid conversation.
Yes.
And it took your second assignment because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I didn't even connect the dots until you said I was at my first base, right, Pat, where I was the only black person. And then when I went to Osan, wow. I know you weren't there long, but did you feel kind of lonely at all ever? Or, I mean, because maybe you're a little more tough. At my first base, I'm not going to lie to you. I was underneath the mailbox. I was crying because I was homesick. I was 17 and I was like, holy crap. But I never had no disassociation with anyone. I was just, I guess, sad, young, and lonely. But you at your first base, not feeling like you could connect with anyone who could understand you, and going to Osan where you could. Can you rewind? Can you talk on that?
Yeah. So at Wright Pat, because in my career field, it's very white male centric. Then it's white female. Then it's a tie between black males and black females. And so there's not a lot of us. And especially back then when I came in 2002, the demographic was still very skewed. It still is to a sense now, but we're coming up a little bit. Okay. But there was not a lot of us. And in the location where in the squadron that I was in, I was lost. You know, I was my first duty station, and by the way, that should not be the first duty station for anybody, but anybody. But it was just there was nobody in. Like I would be in the office and I would just sit by myself, and there was nobody there because actually, which was a really bad thing in this sense, is that there was nobody that was my AFSC that was actually in my office. And so they had to send me to another office to somebody else to help me through my CVCs, which is really crazy at the time. When I look back at it, I'm like, this is not how this is actually supposed to go. But okay, not a problem. And as a A1C, my direct supervisor was a major that was not my AFSC. And I was just like, so they couldn't tell me anything. Nobody could tell me anything. It was just like, this conversation, I am 100% true. I was sitting there at my desk, and my supervisor changed from a major to a captain, and this captain, who was a comm officer, came over to me, and he was like, "Man, you like, so you intel." Yes, sir. So you really know if there's aliens or not, huh? Can you tell me if you know? And I just looked at him. I looked at him and I was like, is this really what the Air Force is? Is this my life?
And what year was this? What year was this?
This was 2003.
Oh my God. You'd already been in the Air Force 11 years. Holy crap.
Oh my gosh. Hey, look.
Ooh. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. You were at OSAN in 03?
I went to OSAN in 2004. 2004.
I was in Kunsan from 2003 to 2004.
Man.
Yeah.
We might have passed by each other all.
Oh, yeah. If you saw some big Asian dude stumbling in Songtan, you know what I mean?
Get some chicken on the stick. That's not really chicken.
So you want to hear a story? What we used to do? So I used to take Wolfpack wheels all the way to Songtan every weekend. My longtime friend, my running partner from Europe. Every great but yet bad airman was raised by a shanky, shady NCO. Right? That's my story, and I'm gonna leave it alone. But we ended up being at Korea together. But he was like a logistics superintendent. It was like literally right there by the Red Horse building at Osan. And anyways, I'd go see him. We would hang out right on the corner when you get to Songtan. There was a tailor. I think it was Aragon Alley to the left and right. But we would just sit there and watch these young airmen get taken to school by. Right. So payday was always the best day because you would see them getting hustled.
Oh, God, this is so bad.
And so we would be sitting there with our McDonald's because McDonald's was right there. We'd go get some food, sit on the corner, bullshit, and just be like, dog, man, like, that's the fourth dude. Like,
Sally's still out there too. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, in the alley.
Yes, she sure is.
Yeah, we called her the trapdoor spider. So, because most times you'd only see her when you're trying to run to the gate to make sure you don't bust curfew. I still remember being like, I got time to get a chicken on the stick before, and my boy grabbed me. He's like, no, you don't, man. You don't want to be outside these gates, man, when that curfew hits. Yeah, town patrol be getting you, man. But okay, look, we done torn off into a whole nother story. But yes, we were there together. That's funny. That is awesome.
Look, Korea was the best. I had so much fun, and you make so many lifetime friends that, like, I still run into people. So funny. It's like I ran into he was actually my squadron superintendent when at Nellis. He like came down and I was like, oh my gosh, sir. And he looked at me and we made eye contact and we're like, things we'll never speak about.
Yep. You know that nonverbal too. Yeah. Oh, trust me. Ooh. I hope it's not that superintendent. I'll tell you, I was at oh Lord have mercy. Me and Lynn were at this is bad. We were at one of the Air Force balls here at South Point. So I know you were there. You I told you were up front leader. And oh my God, the stories that I shouldn't tell. So I introduced my wife to this particular chief, who in turn introduced his wife by the wrong name.
Okay, no.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, I looked at Lynn, and she looked at me, and we watched this thing play out, and then he looked at me. I was like, bruh.
You are going home.
Bruh is all I said. I said, bruh. He said, you'll have to excuse me. I was like, and boy, and then I got read the riot act. You know what I mean? It's like when you wake up from a dream and like all of a sudden you're culpable to what someone else dreamed. I'm like, hey, that was your dream, not mine. And so, boy, yeah, but that was one of those awkward moments where you run into each other and it's like, oh, hey, Christine, this is Lynn. And you're like, I remember back in 2004, right? And it's like, no, we don't talk about that shit. So yeah, there is absolutely code. And I don't know if you know, so it's funny you said that. I made an Air Force. I took on a mini rapping career, which is pretty whack, but, if Two Live Crew can do it, then I can do it. And I made a little one. You know what? I posted it and I deleted it and then I reposted it, but I didn't put it on my Facebook because it was, the Air Force Bars Challenge. And if you go to my YouTube page, you'll see it there. And I took it down because it talks about why you should join the Air Force rap and you're not supposed to cuss. But I found one of my verses going down the Korea path. And so I was like, oh, someone's going to be offended. Remember we were just talking about that earlier? Everything's offensive. So I took it down. Then I had my friend listen to it. He was like, if a motherfucker don't know about Korea who's in the military, they shouldn't join the Air Force anyways. So, and I was like, all right, I'll put it back up, but I'm not going to post it out there. There's still a certain part of me that is still sensitive to everybody, but I wish there was probably a little bit more of you and me, because especially again, like I said, birds of feather flock. You and Neff are tight. Neff don't give a shit what you think, and
That's what
right, and for me, I do care, even if I don't agree with you. I care about what you think, and I think that's an unhealthy thing as a leader. And I don't necessarily know where you stand on that, but since I'm asking the question, how do you manage that? Like, do you care what somebody thinks, or do you try to negotiate it? How do you reconcile that with yourself as a leader?
Which is, and a lot of people are probably not going to agree with me, and it's fine. But I care really more what the people under me think than what my leaders think.
Okay.
And mainly because I've been in the situation where I needed a leader to believe in me and to listen to me and to hear what I'm saying, and I didn't have that. And it's kind of like I want to give that back because I know what it feels to be in that position. And sometimes leaders are disconnected because you're not down there. You're not doing the things that your folks are doing, so you don't know the struggles that they have going on. You don't know the different stressors that they may have in their life that may be affecting the way that they're doing their work.
Yeah.
I hear what leaders say, like those that are above me. I hear what they say. Obviously, I have to follow the direction that they give me. But what they think about me, 100%, I don't care. As long as it feels better to me to have somebody that's a staff sergeant or senior airman or whatever or a tech reach out, even like people that make master, reach out to me. Oh my gosh, Sergeant Johnson, thank you so much. Like this is I think you're one of the reasons why I made it. Thank you for doing, people that reach back out after the fact,
right.
Those, and young LTs and captains, the ones that, we mentor and say, hey, this is how you should do things, and give them advice, life advice and professional advice, right?
Yeah.
Those ones that reach back out to you, those are the stories that matter the most to me, not the ones from, some colonel or general, name your leader. It doesn't matter. That person is Sergeant Johnson did a good job. That's all you don't have a personal connection with me. And I think tend to have personal connections more so with those that are under us, and we can impact them more so. So it matters to me what they think, not what the ones above me think.
Yeah, I had actually gotten into I love to argue. So I'm a very confrontational person, but I've learned as I've gotten older, I don't let go of it. Does it make sense? Like, I'm not the type, I will gradually forgive and move on, but I will play things back over and over my head. Let's say me and you get in a debate, right? About Meg Thee Stallion or something like that, right? I'll spend the next 4 days reconciling everything I said to you to make sure that my argument was factual, fair. And so I've learned in my confrontations that it just takes too much energy out of me. But I got to be honest with you. I think that this is a big one. This is a bad one for me to say, but it's being real. I have an issue with some of my peers. Because I don't think they fucking deserve it. But because I think that real leadership is not appreciated as much as cheerleadership. And I think it's okay for you to cheer your team with being real with them, but I think some people are more worried about being popular.
Yeah.
And I said, because if you're popular, you fake the funk and you actually believe that people are following you because you've inspired them. No, you're just popular. There's a difference between leading and popularity. But I found later in my years, those were the people who were rising to the command chief levels. And for me, I was just too, do you remember, oh my God, who was the comedian? I think it was Martin Lawrence back in the day. And he was making fun of Anthony Mason on the New York Knicks. And they were like, nobody likes Anthony Mason. He's so aggressive. Like, basically he was saying, cause he's a bully.
I was about to ask you about something. Go ahead.
You know what I mean? Well, and so like for me, I feel like that's just what later in my years, I think it was respected, but my delivery was just like, it just wasn't diplomatic enough. And I'm not a diplomat. And I said, you have to look at me like this. I'm like the fully loaded C-17 that has a hard landing. And it may chip a little bit of the runway, the airfield. But once you open it up and you see all the shit that's in it, you appreciate it, you know? But you have to give it a chance. So I think, did you say you wanted to ask me something?
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, I was like, do you think that it is because, so I'll tell you that I have, coming from the career field that I'm in and being always like the smaller demographic in the unit, I'm always labeled as aggressive or abrasive or just too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it is like sometimes I equated that with it's just because of the way I look, or you don't like like you said, my delivery of the information, because I'm definitely not that diplomatic person,
right,
that's going political person that's going to like, oh my gosh, come here, let me hold you and hug you and show you how you're supposed to do. No,
right.
That's not. If we don't do our jobs, people die.
Right.
So guess what? When I sit down and I tell you that, guess what? That sucked.
Right.
That really did. That really sucked. So let's talk about what you could have done better. Yeah, there might be some tears, but at the end of the day, those are the individuals that come back to me and say, thank you for giving me that tough love. Like, I needed that. And it was like, you didn't only, like, some people are criticize with no constructive, and it's not constructive. You don't tell the person how to be better. You just tell them that they suck. Yeah. But I'm that person, like, bro, you suck. Let's talk about this. Why did you go down this route? Why did you go down this route? When we could have did this, I could have done that. Go look this up, come back to me and let me know what you find, and let's talk about it. And so I'm that type of person because I like to teach. Right. I like to teach people because I want you to be better than me when you get to where I am. And then you can bring somebody up behind you. And so, yeah, I'm that person. Like, I've been labeled aggressive my entire career. Because I'm like, I'll stop somebody. I'm like, I'm sorry. Hey, no, let's not do this.
Well, wait till you make chief. So I heard the same thing. So let me make sure I don't lose any sight. So let me tell you a story real quick about me, right? So I was a tech sergeant in the mission support group. I was the NCIC of the Commander's Action Group at Travis Air Force Base, the only tech sergeant. And so, you know, when you work for 06s, the priority for the squadron is whatever the 06 says that day. And guess who's the bitch boy, AKA messenger, me. And superintendents and commanders don't like that shit when a tech sergeant is saying, hey, where is this for EET, or where is this, blah, 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 right? And I was one deep. I worked my ass off. So we were in the hallway, me and my buddy. He's now a chief. I'll just call him John. His real name is John. And we were hanging up the quarterly award winners. And I was like, and me and him we are shit talkers, just like me and you would be. Like, I think I'm a fucking awesome person to work with, because I call the bullshit. So here we out there. We didn't know the chief, and he was a fucking nerd. I would tell him to his fucking face. We didn't see him, and he did this little stupid thing where he'd rest his hands on his little belly, right? His little comm chief, no kids, drove a Porsche, a little fucking asshole, right? And then he would move his thumbs, like when he talked to you, almost like you were fucking stupid. And so for me, like I was like, God, I want to punch this guy. So anyways, we didn't know he was in the back there twiddling his thumbs, like a stalker Oompa Loompa, right?
Good one.
And so me and John are talking, and I was like, oh, what a fucking surprise. Guess who won again? LRS, Comm Squadron, right? So me and him were joking, right? Because we're like, man, we work in the group, but we never got put up for the awards, and we'd bust our ass. And so we didn't know fucking old Homer Simpson was behind us. And so he walks up, and he's like, well, you know, Sergeant James, do you know why? Because I didn't really understand the board process where all the superintendents sat down. Obviously, I know it now, right? He's like, all the superintendents are scared of you. I looked at him. I looked at him. I said, well, I'm not Pyru. I said, I'm not a gangbanger. I was like, what are they scared of? Well, you're just a little too aggressive. You're just a little too abrasive. I said, you mean accountable for the shit the 06 wants? Your boss? So this was a great conversation, because I was just like, it was the first time I think I stumped a chief as a tech sergeant. And he was like, because I would just stop him. I'd be like, wait a minute. Like, that don't make sense. We're in the Air Force. You know what I mean? Like, I'm professional. I'm not showing up at their crib with my bat and my gat talking about it's quarterly awards time and I know you got my package. And so he was like, yeah, you know, and honestly, you know, sometimes, because also I'd be very sensitive towards services. At the time, services and MSS were separate. It was before they merged into FSS. And he was like, and honestly, those other squadrons, they just don't know how to write that well. And I said, well, aren't you the group chief? I was like, aren't you supposed to tell them what's missing?
I was about to say.
I said, I thought you advised them on that. He just looked at me and walked off, right? And John's like, dude, you fucking got his ass. You know, like, you know, little badass NCOs, like, yeah, you fucked the chief over. And then I was like, and then I'm sure how many people said that shit about me when they walked off. But,
yeah. My mama told me to tell you.
So, going back to you, what I would say is this: I can relate. I think we live in such a hyper sense. Remember, I told you Neff was like just giving me the business, and she wasn't wrong. Either was I. Does it make sense? Yeah. It was just one of those, well, if I was the chief type conversations, and so. I've always had thick skin. I've always had a lot of love for those who are abrasive, because if they were molded right, they wouldn't fear taking on challenges that need to be taken on. Yeah. And so I think anyone who says that to you, depending on the context and how they deliver it, is either intimidated by you, or they're genuinely saying, absolutely be that, but be okay if you top out, because somebody who has influence on your progression may be too sensitive for that shit. Does that make sense? Okay. And guess what? We also promote based on academics. I'm gonna tell you, you will find out that I love academics, but I can't stand academics who promote. I can't stand fucker who can test well, who promotes, who has no experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll be the first one to tell you, I've read LeBron James's book on how to dunk a basketball 50 times, and I can't dunk a basketball. And this is coming from a guy, I have 6 degrees. I don't know if you know that. So, I love academics, but I like academics because I did it to tell my kids when they go to school, they can't say, well, you didn't do it. So for you, I would say that people are probably intimidated. They probably don't like the truth. Let's be real. We don't even know what the fuck the truth is today. Social media allows popularity truths.
That is definitely factual.
Right. And so, but in the Air Force, it's not supposed to be so vague, but that's what I was talking about. The culture changes is like now, so I'm going to tell you, by the way, one of the most awesome pictures, and I think is awesome for you, is that picture of you and Chief Bass. But I'm going to tell you, me, and I have 0 issues with Chief Bass, 0 issues. It's such a highly sensitive conversation, but I don't subscribe to how she uses social media.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. No. I subscribe to her use of social media. Mm-hmm. I don't subscribe to, even Chief Ryder did it. I don't necessarily subscribe with using social media as an excuse to connect directly with airmen. I absolutely believe it has its purposes, but everything in life, like, okay, Sergeant Johnson, you're just too abrasive, right? Okay, maybe true, but the intent is good, right? But there's always a negative, whether you accept it or not. Have you ever apologized to someone? I have. I'm like, look, that wasn't my intent, and I'm not saying I'm wrong, but I'm sorry I made you feel that way.
Yeah.
And when you can't get, like, this is one example I give. I got in an argument with this bitch ass groupie chief in the chief Facebook forum, and I really would punch him in his face if he came to Vegas. And I promise you I'm not violent. It's just how stupid he sounded. There's a difference between strategic communication from that level and leadership. You can't say because you post on Facebook you're leading shit. Because you could be leading, but you could be leading motherfuckers off a cliff.
True.
Down at the grassroots, right? The grassroots. Your airmen, Christine, your airmen are debating your leadership and experience because of a post on social media, sometimes often by our chief master sergeants of the Air Force. And I'm like, leading the airmen at the grassroots level is my fucking job. And it's even not a Chief James job. I got staff sergeants, young staff sergeants that are going through shit in life that are having to work 400 times harder because of a fucking Facebook post. And then I go on Facebook all the time and I'm like, where's your chief? Where's your master sergeant? Why are you coming on Facebook asking a question to get 50,000 different answers?
And so I guess my question would be is the way that I viewed it, the way that I view the way that at least the last 2 chief master sergeants of the Air Force have used social media is that they are trying to connect with the new generation. The new generation airmen are all on social media. That's what they see. And that's sometimes how you can get a message out quicker than you were to funnel it down via memos that you may get like a week later, or you may not ever get from leadership in your wing. And I think that that's a way of actually growing with the generations. Maybe
true. So I'm not saying you're wrong. But if the entire force doesn't understand your mode of operation, then now you have arguments and you have unclear. It doesn't make sense. That's all I'm saying is like I agree. I know what they're trying to do, but it's causing problems. Again, I don't have no problem with their motive. I know what they're trying to do. And I agree 100%. I know the path you're going down. Absolutely. But, how about like this? Let me give you a good example because, everything I got to go to is relatable to things like us in the gym, right?
Yeah.
There's Christine Johnson, like almost like basically hitting the bag and slightly like dancing like she on the dance floor with a boo, right? and they see the trainer, like he back there basically semi twerking, shadow boxing with you, because it's that vibe, right? How many different perceptions do you think can come out of that?
Oh my goodness. So a lot. And you're right. Perception. And we talked about that perception too,
right?
Right.
Right. And so if all our perceptions are different, even by 1 degree, then we have to be cognizant of, how do I message out from this level and still meet my intent, yet not undermine the leaders that are being undermined by people who are bad receivers of the information. Because we got bad characters out there, right? That will take stuff and use it against us when we're like, bro, that's not the intent. Come on.
Yep.
I mean, and so that's all I'm saying is that if the intent is to do something, then me as a chief need to kind of be able to understand the rationale behind it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I can explain it at the grassroots level, and I don't take it a certain way. That's all I'm saying. So I'm not, again, Kevin James, and I absolutely am never going to question anyone who makes it to that level. But I just got in a debate, and I was like, I don't think she's leading. I don't think she's doing anything wrong. But I don't call that leadership. Back in the day, we were told leadership was getting out from behind your desk. Now everybody's talking about leadership is making a post because it reaches more people.
Oh, I definitely don't believe in that. I'll tell you that much.
Well, that's the mindset of some of my peers.
Posting on social media to me is not. The social media is fake. Let's be for real. Like,
not when Meg Thee Stallion is playing and you're boxing.
Let me tell you something. No,
no, just
Meg Thee Stallion, come on, it's a situation. No, but I think that when I say that social media is fake, I mean that when you see a lot of people, have you ever seen those? I think it's like either a YouTube video but it shows like how people capture, like you see these amazing pictures of people in like a background and they're smiling and they look like they're living their best life. And after that, they zoom out and after that, they're all glum because they're only doing it for the gram.
Right.
And so I always take things on social media with a grain of salt. And so like my thought process on like the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Forces, like their postings on Facebook, like when I see, for one, I'm not friends with any of those pages on Facebook because I just don't want that to be flooding my news feed when I just scroll through because I just don't want to.
Right.
And so my thing is that if I see it and I see it for the first time, my thought process is that my commanders and my chiefs have already known about this before I've ever seen it.
Right.
So, and I don't know, like maybe I'm not, aware enough that maybe that's the first time you guys are seeing it too at the same time. But to me, you guys have already been in the know and we're just now getting the information funneled down to us.
Yeah.
So that's 100.
And so that's not always true. But I'm not countering your perspective. I guess maybe, what you did was you brought me a little more clarity to tell you what my biggest issue is. It's entertaining the fact that anyone can just tag them on social media versus versus going through your chain of command.
That's a good one because you know what? I've seen that and I'm like, wait, we can just tag people? We can just
Well, that's the culture they created though, because they entertain it. The minute you entertain it, it's now acceptable.
Like, what if I posted something really inappropriate and tagged the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force?
But that's what I'm saying though, right? Like, I mean, and that's why I just think it has to be careful. Like, I don't think anyone should be able to just tag them up in a thing. It should be more, and if they do respond, should be like, well, did you talk to your chief? Did you talk to your master sergeant? Did you talk to your first sergeant? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or don't respond at all, because that's the dangers, right? Because then you'll be criticized for being out there, but then you don't even acknowledge people. So I don't know. It's a weird dynamic. And again, I'm going to chalk this up as I'm just fucking old. And that when I was an airman, I did dumbass shit that my chiefs were like, "Are you for real, dude?" And we never even saw our chiefs. I mean, if we saw a tech sergeant, I was terrified, and usually I did something wrong. So, yeah, I don't know.
I remember when I first came in, there was an email that was circling around that someone had sent an email directly to the chief of staff of the Air Force about something weird. It must have been it was either an airman or a staff sergeant sent an email direct.
Yeah, I think it was my coworker. Honestly, for real, I'm being serious, because that was a big thing when I was at Beale. It had to do with family care plans. So this is I don't know if this is connected to your story, but we had someone who sent an email to all Air Force.
Air Force
all Air Force, and it was about how she was being fucked over for a family care plan. It was some shit, because when you're a young airman at that time, you were like, oh hell yeah, my shit's about to pop off. You're not like a leader where you're like who really gives a shit. Oh my god, this just became my problem. You're more interested in stoking the fire and making it worse.
Because then you have those people that reply all be like, please remove me from this distro.
Well, I think someone replied ooh, reply all. And so I think they had to find someone in comm to shut it down and remove. Because you got those characters out there, email took it to another level, because back in the day we just had our radios where people would get on the radio and be like, yeah, we were in an exercise in Germany one time. It was a real exercise happening, and someone kept getting on the thing being like, burger, like Homer Simpson. They just kept in it, and then you would have the old crusty person like me, maintain radio integrity, stop it. And you never can find out who did it, So I don't know, but I do want to do this. I do want to give you the floor. I mean, we can absolutely do another interview. You're such an awesome person to talk to. It makes me feel like I've actually been missing out, not calling you and harassing you more. Life is so busy. So thank you for forgiving me for taking so long. When I started doing this, you start to question man, maybe people just don't like you. And then one day I'm like, holy crap, I got all these people I've asked if they're willing to be interviewed, and they say yes, which means they don't dislike you. And then there's so many, you know what I mean? Cause it's like imagine opening your first business for you're selling French fries. And next thing you know, you're like, oh shit, I don't got enough potatoes. So I'm so grateful for you. But I want to offer you the last word to the audience, words of inspiration, anything, that is on your mind now. And yeah, Sergeant, I don't even want to say Sergeant, cause your call sign is MIG, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, and you keep dodging that question, but we'll ask that for the next time. But the floor is yours. Any last words? Any shout outs? We already shouted out Neff. You know what I mean? She out there living her best life, and
That's the best life. That's what I'm talking about. That retired life. I'm trying to be like y'all when I grow up.
Oh wait. Well, you know what? When you get your I got it. I think Neff she might have got a blue one too before they switched over to that old CAC retiree card. So when you get that RET, the DD214 hat, then y'all got to make your way back to Vegas. You know what I mean? And then we'll put on Grandma Meg, right? Because you got at least. Are you gonna do 20 or more? Or are you just gonna see where the road takes you?
I'm gonna see where the road takes me. Right now, 20 is the goal. However, I'm here for the ride. If it's a good ride, so when it's time to get off the ride. I think that everybody knows when it's time to get off, and I don't ever want to stay past when I know it's time to get off, because you meet those leaders where you're like, you don't really want to be here. So why are you here?
That was me when I retired, right?
What?
Yeah, I was done. I was done. I'll share this story with you because I think you're going to stay in longer because everybody knows 15 through 19 March is the tentative release. Is that the public release date for senior?
Yes.
And I expect your name on it. So please, I know you're private. And I'm very bad at keeping up. If you make it, can you at least text me or put it on Facebook or something like that so I can do a big congratulations to you?
I will send you a text message, sir.
Please.
707 Bay Area.
Yeah. Yay, area. People think I'm what? Yeah, I left. It was really time for me to go. And I'll tell you that story on another podcast. We'll do like a part 2. Okay. But I would love for you to share any words of inspiration for the listeners before we wrap it up.
So I would say, really one of the big things that I think a lot of people struggle with, especially as leaders, sometimes, is that they want to conform and be somebody else. Like you have to find what you are, what kind of leader you want to be. So always be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else because that person's already taken. Like you have to be unique to you and don't stray away from who you are, because who you are is what makes you, or what's going to make you the leader that you're going to become. So don't try to be anybody else. I think a lot of people struggle with that because they see somebody and they're like, oh, I want to be like this person, or I want to be like this person. But take the nuggets from those individuals that you see and you aspire to be like, and just put that into your box to help form the leader that you are going to be. You got to stay true to yourself. And I think some people forget that. Like, I would like to say that I am staying true to myself because I'm always going to be that person that's loud. I'm always that person. You can ask anybody. You can ask Neff and all my friends when they see me. If I see a leader, a chief, a colonel, a general, one of the first things I say, like if I have like a relationship or some sort of relationship with them, I'm always like, hey, what's cracking? How you doing today? And I am that person. That is who I am. I have to be true to myself because at the end of the day, when I come home, I have to look at myself in the mirror. And when you reflect on the day, you want to reflect on who you are and how you impacted somebody, not how you try to be like somebody else to impact somebody else, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
So that's what I would say.
Man, that's what's up. So, hey, listeners, listen. First thing I want to say is when I do release this, and it's going to be in the comments, if you've ever gotten that look from MIG, and it's the look, I want to hear your story in the comments. But I can't tell you, such a phenomenal interview. You are an amazing, amazing woman leader warrior, and I wish you the best luck at Shawshank. And I absolutely can't wait to find out that you made senior. I promise you, I am rooting for you all the way up to chief. Because Lord knows we are going to do a podcast, and I'm gonna wait for you to be like, believe these motherfucking chiefs say I'm aggressive and abrasive. I'm like, yeah, the same story you've been hearing your whole career, but real recognize real, and everybody's not real. So, hey, you're the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. But listen, all. I'm honored because I'm gonna tell you, amazing leader, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in. But if you got questions from Meg, it'll be there in the comments, and whatever information she's willing to share. I know she's fairly private. But I absolutely encourage you, airmen out there listening, if you got questions about real, or if you're at your first base and you feel alone or isolated, reach out to her. I'm sure there's some perspective she can share and how to overcome it, because she absolutely has. And from KJ Studios, we're grateful for you. Bye.